I've been going through the Warhammer games lately, and having been through the wonderful Dawn of War, the original RTS game, I turned my attention to something a little bit more recent, Warhammer 40k Mechanicus. Now, the Mechanicus is a really cool aspect of the lore, and the community in general has a lot of die-hard fans, but they are very rarely given much attention in the main Warhammer games. This whole game is centered around them, and it aims to correct that mistake with a lot of heart and a lot of love for our favorite toaster boys. The game is styled as a turn-based strategy game where you are in charge of a group of Mechanicus tech priests, and you are located on a Necron tomb world. These Necrons, the Egyptian Terminators, are slowly waking up and are a constant threat that you need to manage. The whole game is based on the idea of risk versus reward, where you have to try to get into a place, steal as much tech as you can, and then run away as fast as possible, hopefully managing to beat them from waking up and getting out of bed. What makes me say the game is underrated is because it's not popular in the wider gaming community. If Warhammer games are really, really good, then they generally get a lot of love from most gamers in general, like the Total War franchise, for example. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, you have games like this, which are turn-based strategy games. They are seen generally as being a little bit more boring, but let me tell you, they're definitely not. They are very exciting, and you can almost think of this as like a Warhammer 40k version of XCOM. It's a very, very well executed game, and if you are able to gel with the style of it, then you are going to have a great time. The only thing that annoyed me when I first started playing the game was that there aren't any voice actors for the tech priests, because they speak in this sort of garbled techno language, and after about 5 sentences, it kind of made me want to throw my computer out the window. But the game has a ton of heart. The characters are witty and all very different kinds of tech priests. So I resolved to just press the spacebar once so the dialogue is skipped, but the text remains, which is honestly the best way to play the game. As soon as you do this, the game becomes a million times better. Some of the tech priests are really religious in their whole personality, and their solution to just any problem is, rub scented oils on it and pray. But others have a very brutal and very pragmatic answer to a lot of questions, and it's a really cool mix because you've got different tech priests that are part of your whole sort of conclave, I guess, and the various missions you get will also vary depending on which solution is going to be the right one. So when you're on a mission with the religious guy, when you actually pray, sometimes it ends up working out, and I mean something happens, and the buttons start flashing green instead of red, so hey, fuck it, praise the Omnissiah. The developers have done a great job of making all of the tech priests feel different, because the very techie one is like visible excitement whenever they see a new Necron, but the religious tech priest is like, let me read this Bible passage to protect us. The Necrons, however, are almost more human than the tech priests, because they actually have voice actors, and they have some really cool lines, and they sound so badass. There's also a very interesting duality with the tech priests being less human than the Necrons, because it's kind of strange. It's like, the Egyptian Terminators are speaking English, but the Mechanicus are speaking in ones and zeros. But yeah, they are really fun to fight against, with a wide variety of units and bosses that had me on the edge of my seat. The gameplay itself is good and strategic, but the learning curve is not gentle. It's pretty freaking brutal. The game starts it's actually pretty hard, and a fair few things are not explained to the player, so you just have to kind of wing it and learn as you go. But after a few missions under your belt, you get the general idea, and from like 10 missions in, the game becomes a much easier ride. This is because as you progress, you unlock new weapons and technology, upgrading your tech priests with some really sweet weapons. And damn, the sound effects in this game are amazing. Like, whoever did this kind of work deserves a brand new toaster, because they absolutely freaking nailed it. Each mission starts with almost a Dungeons and Dragons style approach, where you enter the tomb and then have to navigate through it, working through various scenarios that happen as you explore it. You can choose various pathways within the tomb, and they usually end with one or more fights to end the mission. The scenarios throughout the mission are actually pretty interesting, and it helps to pay attention to the messages instead of just skipping through it and just sprinting to the final fight. Like, I really enjoy the fact that the options and outcomes have consequences. It really keeps you on your toes. If you're too cautious and you take too long, then more of the Necrons will wake up and you have to fight even more of them. But if you rush through things, you might be walking headfirst into a trap and get ambushed. So, combat-wise, your tech priests are the main force, and you can also call in various troops, and towards the end of the game, some of these can get pretty freaking awesome, with a big giant mech as well. And they can, either be as a supporting role, or they can be used as cannon fodder, depending on how you want to play. The game gives you a wide variety of approaches to combat. Each tech priest can be upgraded down a few different paths, or they can be upgraded down all of them at the same time. So you have this whole master of a couple of things, or, pretty good at everything sort of approach you can take. And each tech priest can be built individually around that, whether you want to make them a master of close combat and really tanky, but you could also go with a glass cannon build, or just a pretty balanced approach. There's a lot of variety in how you can do it. I honestly didn't expect resource management to be so important for this game. Like, having a awesome, powerful weapon is really sweet, but it could be a liability if it costs tons of command points to use the damn thing. Once again, feeding into the whole theme of risk versus reward. So, overall, the gameplay is a very good mix between tomb exploring and combat against a range of enemies, giving you a challenging but rewarding experience. I don't think I can finish this video off though without saying anything about the soundtrack, because it just straight up slaps. Like, everything sound design wise in this game is a goddamn masterpiece. So yeah, serious props to the devs on that end. And look, if you haven't played a turn-based strategy game before, then it might be best to wait until a special happens in case it doesn't really gel with you. But if you have played turn-based strategy games before, you're gonna have a great time. But that pretty much wraps it up for today. I hope that you all enjoyed the video, and if you do want to see more, then make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. I've been Kiv, and yeah, I will be seeing you all on the next one.